So, here's the answer. You ready?
Censorship is the suppression of speech or deletion of communicative material which may be considered objectionable, harmful, sensitive, or inconvenient to the government or media organizations as determined by a censor.
This concept of news media as a vital check on institutional governmental power was taken to heart by America's founding fathers, who took care to preserve freedom of speech, and the freedom of the press in particular, as a constitutionally enshrined right in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights. Or so the story goes.
Here's what Chairman of the Rules Committee, Pete Sessions, has to say about censorship.
Are there reasons why you should not print things? Are there reasons why you should not do it? Yeah. Should it be against the law? Secrets should be secrets. But the problem was not that they printed it. What's the problem? It's somebody who knew talked. That's the problem.
Sure sounds like Mr. Sessions is against protecting your freedom of speech, doesn't it?
Let's see what Mr. Sessions' opponent in the congressional primary, Katrina Pearson, has to say.
I am completely opposed to censorship. My opponent, on the other hand, supports it. I think the internet is just like the air we breathe. We have a right to it, and I don't think it should be controlled or regulated. I know other countries put filters on there, and I don't agree with that at all whatsoever. And I can just leave it at that. I mean, I would fight every measure possible to censor or filter the internet.
Now that's more like it.
Protecting internet freedom is an essential role of the government.
Now, your boss, Secretary Clinton, gave a speech about a year ago on internet freedom. What was the basis of that speech, and how has that affected U.S. policy around the world?
Well, I think the speech probably, it's fair to say in simple terms, has two foundations. One is there is clearly a human rights aspect to internet freedom. That is the ability of all people in the world to communicate their views freely to one another, something that you find in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There's also an economic aspect to it. Connectivity is something that is very important in terms of commercial activities. And so the speech was intended to make the case that we need to have mechanisms that respect the rights of individuals to communicate. We also need to have mechanisms that assure the free flow of information for economic reasons as well.
One of the most recent attacks to our freedom of speech was spearheaded by Dianne Feinstein. Let's see what Katrina Pearson has to say on this topic.
They are trying to take away everybody's freedom of speech. Tea parties were actually involved in 2009. That stopped a big speech legislation that was going to silence a lot of people, including churches. So Tea parties have actually been involved in that for quite some time. And it's just unfortunate that we don't have enough examples to point to on the successes that we've had fighting for preserving our rights. And I think we'll see more of that as the rest of this administration begins to unravel. But Dianne Feinstein and others, they only want to limit certain people's rights, not their own.
Now let's see Dianne express her views on the First Amendment.
Let me explain why I think this amendment is needed. I've had long-standing concerns that the language in the bill as introduced would grant a special privilege to people who really aren't reporters at all, who have no professional qualifications whatsoever. The fundamental issue behind this amendment is, should this privilege apply to anyone, to a 17-year-old who drops out of high school, buys a website for $5, and starts a blog? Or should it apply to journalists, to reporters who have bona fide credentials?
This country was founded on the principles of freedom, and we, the people, believe that it should remain forever free, and so should you, Congress.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous